The air in the Oval Office hung thick with the scent of old leather and Kennedy's ever-present pipe tobacco. It was November, 1963. The leaves outside were turning, a kaleidoscope of reds and golds against the crisp autumn sky. Inside, however, the atmosphere was less picturesque. JFK, his youthful face etched with the lines of responsibility, sat behind the imposing resolute desk. The weight of the world, it seemed, rested squarely on his shoulders. His presidency, though marked by moments of soaring idealism, also carried the heavy burden of the Cold War, the burgeoning civil rights movement, and a growing unease in Southeast Asia. As his first term drew to a close, Kennedy found himself increasingly drawn to the quieter, less public aspects of his office. The grand speeches and international summits were vital, yes, but it was in the individual stories, the pleas for help that landed on his desk each day, that he found a deeper connection to the American people. He ran a hand through his famously tousled hair, a familiar gesture of contemplation. The room, usually bustling with activity, felt strangely still. Only the rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner broke the silence. He knew that soon enough, the clamor of advisers and the demands of state would intrude once more. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection, a moment to consider the human cost of policy, and the power he wielded to change individual lives. The stage was set, the players were waiting in the wings, and an unseen drama was about to unfold within those hallowed walls. On the mahogany surface of the resolute desk sat a thick file, its manila cover worn and softened with age. This wasn't a matter of national security or international diplomacy. This was a collection of individual lives, each one hanging precariously in the balance. The file contained the cases of several immigrant families facing imminent deportation. JFK reached for it, his fingers tracing the embossed seal of the Department of Justice. He opened the file, the crisp pages rustling softly in the quiet room. The first case detailed the plight of Maria Rodriguez, a young mother who had fled Cuba with her infant son, seeking refuge from political persecution. Her husband had been imprisoned for speaking out against the regime, and Maria feared for her son's safety. The next case belonged to Kenji Tanaka, a gifted artist from Japan who had come to America on a student visa but had overstayed after his scholarship ran out. His paintings, vibrant and full of life, adorned the walls of several galleries in Greenwich Village. Then there was Alessandro Rossi, an Italian craftsman whose intricate woodworking skills were in high demand among wealthy homeowners in New England. Each story was a testament to resilience, a testament to the enduring human spirit that sought opportunity and a better life, regardless of the obstacles. As Kennedy read through the details, a knot formed in his stomach. These weren't just names and numbers on a page, these were people with hopes, dreams, and families who depended on them. The weight of their fates rested on his decision. He knew that granting amnesty would be a controversial move, but could he, in good conscience, send these people back to uncertain futures? The moral dilemma was sharp and inescapable. The files blurred, the stark black and white of the typed pages dissolving into a montage of memories, of lives lived before America. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Asterisk Cuba, 1961 asterisk Maria Rodriguez, barely 20, cradled her newborn son, Miguel, close to her chest. The sounds of shouting and gunfire echoed in the streets outside their small apartment. Her husband, Rafael, a teacher, had been arrested for daring to speak out against the increasingly oppressive regime. Fear gnawed at Maria's insides. She knew she had to get out, to protect Miguel from the dangers that threatened to engulf them. With the help of sympathetic neighbors, she secured passage on a small, overcrowded boat bound for Miami, leaving behind everything she knew and loved, but carrying with her the hope of a better future for her son. Asterisk Japan, 1958 asterisk Kenji Tanaka, a young boy with paint-stained fingers, sat by the riverbank, sketching the vibrant colors of the cherry blossoms. He dreamed of one day sharing his art with the world, of capturing the beauty he saw in everything around him. But his family was poor, and opportunities were limited. When he received a scholarship to study art in America, it felt like a miracle, a chance to fulfill his lifelong ambition. Asterisk Italy, 1955 Alessandro Rossi, a teenager with calloused hands, apprenticed in his father's woodworking shop. He learned the ancient techniques of carving and shaping wood, transforming raw materials into works of art. But the post-war economy was struggling, and there was little demand for handcrafted furniture. He heard stories of America, a land of opportunity where hard work was rewarded. He knew he had to make a leap of faith. Asterisk. These weren't just isolated incidents. They were fragments of a larger tapestry of human experience, a testament to the universal desire for freedom, opportunity, and a better life. And JFK, sitting in the Oval Office, felt the weight of that history pressing down on him. Now, the story shifts, zooming in on each of these individuals and their new American lives. Maria, in Miami, worked tirelessly as a waitress, her days long and her nights short. Every spare penny went towards Miguel's education. She dreamed of him becoming a doctor, a symbol of the opportunities America offered. She volunteered at her church, helping other newly arrived Cuban families navigate the complexities of a new language and a new culture. Her fear of deportation was a constant shadow, threatening to shatter the fragile stability she had built. Kenji, in New York City, struggled to make ends meet, taking odd jobs to support his art. He painted murals on the sides of buildings, capturing the energy and diversity of the city. He found inspiration in the faces of the people he encountered, the stories they carried etched in their expressions. He yearned to exhibit his work in a prestigious gallery, to share his vision with a wider audience. The thought of being sent back to Japan, of abandoning his artistic dreams, filled him with despair. Alessandro, in Boston, established a small woodworking shop. His craftsmanship was impeccable, his attention to detail unmatched. He built custom furniture for wealthy clients, each piece a testament to his skill and artistry. He married an Irish-American woman named Bridget, and they had 2 beautiful children, Liam and Saoirse. He felt like he had finally found a place to belong, a community that valued his talents. The prospect of losing everything he had worked so hard to build was unbearable. These were not just immigrants seeking a handout. They were contributing members of society, enriching American culture with their talents and their hard work. They were the embodiment of the American dream, a testament to the promise of opportunity for all. And JFK knew that their stories deserved to be heard. JFK leaned back in his chair, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He swiveled to face the window, looking out at the manicured lawn. He thought about his own ancestors, Irish immigrants who had fled famine and persecution to seek a new life in America. They had faced prejudice and hardship, but they had persevered, contributing to the fabric of American society. He wondered if they, too, had once faced the threat of deportation. He knew that granting amnesty would be seen by some as a violation of the law, a sign of weakness. He could almost hear the criticisms now. He's letting criminals off the hook. He's encouraging illegal immigration. He's undermining the rule of law. The political fallout could be significant, potentially jeopardizing his chances of re-election. But then he thought about Maria, Kenji, and Alessandro, their faces, their stories, their hopes and dreams. He thought about Miguel, Maria's son, who deserved a chance to grow up in a safe and stable environment. He thought about Kenji's art, which brought beauty and inspiration to the city. He thought about Alessandro's craftsmanship, which enriched the lives of his clients. Could he really turn his back on these people, send them back to uncertain futures, simply to avoid political controversy? Was that the kind of leader he wanted to be? Was that the kind of America he believed in? The internal conflict raged within him, a battle between political expediency and moral conviction. He knew he had to make a choice, and the clock was ticking. Each tick echoed the urgency of their plight. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Mr. President," his chief of staff, Kenneth O'Donnell, announced, stepping into the room, followed by Attorney General Robert Kennedy. "We need to discuss the immigration matter." O'Donnell, ever the pragmatist, spoke first. "Mr. President, we strongly advise against granting this amnesty. The political ramifications are considerable. The opposition will use it against you." It will be portrayed as a sign of weakness, an open invitation for others to break the law. Robert Kennedy, while sharing his brother's sense of justice, echoed the concerns. We understand your compassion, Jack, but we have to consider the bigger picture. This could set a dangerous precedent. Where do we draw the line? We have laws in place for a reason, he continued. The Justice Department is already stretched thin. This will open the floodgates for similar requests. We'll be inundated. JFK listened intently, his expression unreadable. He understood their concerns. He knew the risks. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something more was at stake here. It wasn't just about politics or policy. It was about human dignity, about giving people a chance to live a better life. Gentlemen, he said finally, his voice calm but firm, I appreciate your advice. I understand the potential consequences. But I need to consider all aspects of this situation before making a final decision. The discussion was far from over. The pressure was mounting. The stakes were high. Later that evening, after a long day of meetings and political maneuvering, JFK found himself alone again in the Oval Office. The room was dimly lit, the only source of light coming from a small lamp on his desk. He picked up a framed photograph of his father, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., a man who had instilled in him a strong sense of public service and a willingness to take risks. He remembered a conversation they had had years ago, during his time in the Navy. His father had said, Jack, in this life, you'll face difficult choices. There will be times when you have to choose between what's popular and what's right. Always choose what's right, even if it means standing alone. Those words echoed in his mind now. He knew that granting amnesty would be an unpopular decision, one that would likely draw criticism and opposition. But he also knew that it was the right thing to do, the morally just thing to do. He couldn't let political considerations cloud his judgment. He had to follow his conscience, even if it meant going against the advice of his closest advisors. He thought about the inscription on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That was the promise of America, a beacon of hope for those seeking a better life. He couldn't betray that promise. He wouldn't betray those people. A resolve began to solidify within him. He knew what he had to do. The memory of his father's words gave him strength. With newfound determination, JFK summoned his legal counsel, Theodore Sorensen, to the Oval Office late that night. Ted, he said, his voice filled with purpose, I need you to draft an executive order. I'm going to grant amnesty to those immigrants whose cases we discussed. Sorensen, a loyal advisor and skilled lawyer, raised an eyebrow, but didn't question the president's decision. He knew JFK well enough to understand that once his mind was made up, there was little room for argument. Of course, Mr. President, he replied, reaching for his notepad. What are your specific instructions? JFK outlined his vision for the executive order. He wanted it to be clear, concise, and legally sound. He wanted it to provide a pathway to citizenship for those who had demonstrated a commitment to American society, who had contributed to their communities, and who had shown a willingness to abide by the laws of the land. He emphasized that this was not a blanket amnesty, but a targeted measure designed to address specific cases of hardship and injustice. He instructed Sorensen to include provisions for background checks and security screenings, to ensure that only those who posed no threat to national security would be eligible. He also wanted to create a system for evaluating each case on its individual merits, taking into account factors such as family ties, employment history, and community involvement. As Sorensen took notes, JFK paced the room, his mind racing with details. He knew that this executive order would be scrutinized, dissected, and challenged. He had to make sure that every I was dotted and every T was crossed. The future of these families depended on it. He wanted to ensure that the order would stand up to legal challenges. Over the next few days, Sorensen worked tirelessly, crafting and refining the executive order. JFK reviewed each draft meticulously, suggesting changes and additions, ensuring that it reflected his vision and met the highest legal standards. He wanted the language to be precise, the criteria to be fair, and the process to be transparent. Finally, the executive order was ready. It was a slim document, but it carried the weight of countless hopes and dreams. On the morning of November 21, 1963, just hours before embarking on his trip to Texas, JFK sat at his desk in the Oval Office, the executive order before him. He took a deep breath, his hand hovering over the pen. He knew that signing this document would be a momentous decision, one that could have far-reaching consequences. He thought about Maria, Kenji, and Alessandro, about their struggles and their aspirations. He thought about his own immigrant ancestors, about the promise of America. With a firm hand, he picked up the pen and signed his name, John F. Kennedy, to the executive order. It was a quiet act of defiance, a silent testament to his belief in justice and compassion. He didn't call a press conference. He didn't issue a statement. He simply signed the document and handed it to Sorensen, with instructions to implement it immediately. He knew that the announcement would come later, in due time. But for now, the deed was done. He had made his choice. He had chosen to stand on the side of hope. He felt at peace. News of the executive order spread through the immigrant communities like wildfire, whispered from friend to friend, from neighbor to neighbor. At first, it was met with disbelief, a hesitant hope that dared not to be spoken aloud. After so many years of living in the shadows, of constantly fearing deportation, it seemed too good to be true. In Miami, Maria Rodriguez received the news from a fellow church volunteer. Her eyes widened in disbelief, tears welling up. She rushed home to tell Miguel, who was studying for his exams. "Mijo," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "We can stay. We are safe." Miguel looked up, his face breaking into a wide grin. "Really, Mama? Really?" Maria nodded, embracing him tightly. "See, Mijo. We are Americans now." In New York City, Kenji Tanaka heard the news from a fellow artist. He was skeptical at first, but after confirming the information with a lawyer friend, he allowed himself to believe. He grabbed his paints and brushes and began to work on a new mural, a vibrant celebration of the American dream, a tribute to the city that had embraced him, a thank you to the president who had given him a chance. In Boston, Alessandro Rossi received a phone call from his lawyer. He was stunned, speechless. He shared the news with Bridget and their children. Liam and Saoirse cheered, jumping up and down with joy. Bridget wrapped her arms around Alessandro, tears streaming down her face. "We're home," she whispered. "We're finally home." The relief was palpable, a weight lifted from their shoulders. They could finally breathe freely. Their American dream was secure. Years passed. Maria proudly watched Miguel graduate from medical school, fulfilling her dream. He became a dedicated doctor, serving the underserved communities in Miami, always remembering the sacrifices his mother had made for him. Kenji's art gained recognition, his murals becoming landmarks in New York City. He opened his own gallery, showcasing the work of other immigrant artists, providing them with a platform to share their stories. He never forgot the chance he had been given, the opportunity to pursue his passion. Alessandro expanded his woodworking shop, employing other skilled craftsmen and creating beautiful, timeless furniture that adorned homes across the country. His children, Liam and Saoirse, thrived, excelling in school and contributing to their community. Their stories became interwoven with the larger narrative of America, a testament to the enduring power of hope, resilience, and the pursuit of the American dream. They proved that immigrants were not a burden, but a valuable asset, enriching the nation with their talents, their culture, and their unwavering determination. And as the years went by, the executive order became known as the Kennedy Amnesty, a symbol of compassion and justice, a reminder that even in the face of political pressure, a leader can choose to stand on the side of humanity. The order changed the lives of hundreds and thousands of others over the years. The families built lasting ties with America. A montage flashes across the screen. Maria, beaming with pride, watches Miguel receive his medical degree. The camera zooms in on Miguel's face, a mixture of gratitude and determination. He vows to dedicate his life to serving others, to giving back to the community that had welcomed his family. Kenji stands in his art gallery, surrounded by his vibrant paintings and the works of other immigrant artists. He raises a glass in a toast, celebrating the power of art to transcend borders and connect people from different cultures. Alessandro, his hands callous but strong, carves a beautiful wooden rocking horse for his granddaughter. His face is etched with contentment, knowing that his family's future is secure in this country. A group of newly naturalized citizens wave American flags, their faces filled with joy and pride. They recite the Pledge of Allegiance, their voices strong and clear, a testament to their commitment to their new homeland. A classroom of children, representing a rainbow of ethnicities and backgrounds, learn about American history, about the struggles and triumphs of those who came before them, about the promise of opportunity for all. These are just glimpses, snapshots of the lives touched by the Kennedy amnesty. They are a reminder that even a single act of compassion can have a profound and lasting impact, that even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail. The images blend together to highlight the diversity of America. Back in the Oval Office, on that fateful November morning, JFK stood at the window, gazing out at the White House lawn. The sun was shining brightly, casting long shadows across the grass. He knew that his time in office was coming to an end, that the future was uncertain. He couldn't predict what lay ahead, but he could take solace in the knowledge that he had done what he believed was right. He had chosen to stand on the side of hope, to give a chance to those who deserved it. He had acted in accordance with his conscience, guided by his belief in justice and compassion. He knew that the Kennedy amnesty would be a source of debate and controversy for years to come. Some would praise it as a courageous act of leadership, while others would condemn it as a reckless disregard for the law. But he hoped that, in the end, it would be remembered as a symbol of America's enduring commitment to its founding ideals, to the promise of opportunity for all, regardless of their origin or background. He allowed himself a small smile, a flicker of satisfaction. He had made a difference, however small. He had touched the lives of Maria, Kenji, Alessandro, and countless others. He had given them a chance to build a better future, to contribute to the tapestry of American society. And that, he knew, was a legacy worth fighting for. He hoped for a brighter future. He hoped for a better world. He turned away from the window. It was time to go to Texas. The motorcade wound its way through the streets of Dallas, the crowds lining the sidewalks, waving and cheering. JFK smiled and waved back, trying to project an image of confidence and optimism. But beneath the surface, he carried a quiet burden, a secret that he knew he could never fully share. He knew that the Kennedy amnesty, while a source of pride for him, would likely remain a footnote in history, a small act of kindness in a world filled with conflict and injustice. He might never receive public credit for it. He might even face criticism and condemnation if the truth ever came to light. But he didn't need recognition or praise. He knew in his heart that he had done the right thing. He had given a voice to the voiceless, a chance to the marginalized, a future to the forgotten. He had upheld the promise of America, the beacon of hope that had drawn so many to its shores. As the motorcade approached Dealey Plaza, a sense of foreboding washed over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. But even in that moment of impending doom, he held on to the hope that the seeds of compassion and justice that he had planted would continue to grow, that the Kennedy amnesty would inspire others to stand up for what's right, to build a more just and equitable world for all. He looked out at the crowds one last time. He smiled one last time. He hoped for a brighter future for all. He hoped for peace.